that I find is Jesus Christ my Lord. Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup. Fill it up and make me whole. So my brother, if the things this world gives you leave hungers that won't pass away, my blessed Lord, He will come and save you if you kneel to Him and humbly pray. Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench the thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole.
Now we are going to listen to two people who have some announcements. The first one is Pastor Mike. Mike. After Mike, Pastor Elijah will give an announcement. He has to welcome.
Hi, my name is Mike Davenport, and I wasn't expecting to be here, but I shot Justin a message. I partnered with a ministry based in Massachusetts called John 1723 .org. So what they do in Massachusetts is they pray every day for one of their communities, that churches would reach out to each other at different, through denominationals, interdenominational. And Massachusetts is unique in its geography in that they have 365 cities and towns. So they pray every day. Maine has about 120 more. And the geography of Maine makes it very difficult, especially for rural churches, and I live in a rural area. So my ministry is to get people in different denominations to meet one another, to pray for one another, and we need especially to pray for our pastors. There is a difficult ministry when you're a pastor, but this is what I'm hearing here. And when I shot Justin a message about my ministry, if he could kind of spread the word a little bit, he sent the invitation for me to come in. We're hearing, as Pastor Hickam says, we do need one another, regardless of our denomination. And so I want to thank Brother Justin for the opportunity to spread that. So thank you so much. Pastor Elijah, you need to introduce him? You need to introduce him. Good.
Pastor Elijah, it's your time. He has an announcement to do. We need each other. We need one another. That's the message for today.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the word, and thank you for the opportunity, Brother Justin. I'm here to announce an event, a conference that is taking place in Portland, Maine. You have heard before me that Maine was a post-Christian state, and so many of you have prayed for revival. And what God is doing, God is bringing us all together to be the body of Christ. So therefore, this coming August the 19th to the 21st, we'll be having a 3 days prophetic revival at the University of Southern Maine all together as church body of Christ getting together to pray and intercede for our land. So this is why I'm here to encourage most of you who will be available. We have the flyers in the back there. We will have the body of Christ to join us so we can fellowship together and spend 3 days together. Friday the 19th, Saturday the 20th, and Sunday the 21st at University of Southern Maine. You have all the details there. And therefore, we are also going to officially launch a ministry in the same line. So we need your prayer, your support, and your blessing. May God bless you so much. Thank you.
I think the revival is coming. This is a time for Maine. Hallelujah. There is another pastor who was supposed to give his announcement also for the conference he's preparing, but he's not here today. So we are going to listen to songs again for our sister Angie and then Pam. Yeah.
Well, we're going to do 2 songs, and I had to choose 2 out of the 10 that were there. And so we decided to do 2 that probably don't know the first one, but that's okay. Okay. This is what we got from Florida. Okay, a gal down there wrote this song. Nobody ever sang it really around on public TV or anything like that. We brought it home. Said, "Can we have it?" And she said, "Sure." And I said, "Oh, I love this song." So we came home, and it's another song about being saved. Amen. That's the best news there is, right? I am saved by His grace. I am free as free can be. Oh, I am saved, I am saved, I am saved. I am blessed by holiness. He cares for me. It is plain to see. Oh, I am saved, I am saved, I am saved. Oh, He is King. My everything. He sends His love to us from above. Oh, I am saved, I am saved, I am saved. He is Lord, the living Word. He is the light. He guides me day and night. Oh, I am saved, I am saved, I am saved. Oh, Yeah. I don't know, number one, I think. Yeah, that's the second one. Jesus will be coming back, it won't be long. He'll stop by the cloud and call his children home. I made my reservations many years ago. When I hear him call, I'll be ready to go. And only in the morning, maybe noon or noon. I don't know when he's coming, I just know it's soon. And when the skies break open, that happy day, I'm gonna ride that glory cloud away. I'm gonna ride that cloud someday. I'm going far, far, far away. I'm gonna sail up through that starry sky, up in this world of trouble and sorrow goodbye. I'll be moving to a city that will bring revenue. I am so excited, don't you wanna go too? Oh, what a happy feeling, that day when I'll be leaving, riding that cloud away. On some happy morning when the trumpet sounds, all the dead in Christ will rise up from the ground. We that are still living in a moment will be changed. What a happy feeling when he calls my name. Stepping on the cloud of glory with the Lord, moving up to heaven to receive the reward. I can hardly wait until that happy day. I'm gonna ride that glory cloud away. I'm gonna ride that cloud someday. I'm going far, far, far away. I'm gonna sail up through that starry sky, up in this world of trouble and sorrow. I'll be moving to a city that will prevent you. I'm so excited, don't you want to come through? Oh, what a happy feeling, the day when I'll be leaving, riding that cloud away. I'm going to ride that cloud someday. I'm going far, far, far away. I'm going to sail up through that starry sky, up in this world of trouble and sorrow goodbye. I'll be moving to a city that will be brand new. I'm so excited, don't you want to come through? Oh, what a happy feeling, that day when I'll be leaving, riding that cloud away. Oh, what a happy feeling, that day when I'll be leaving, riding that cloud away. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Jubilee Group.
Yes.
Yeah, God bless you so much. Now I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Hiccup.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the meeting so far. But I warn you, the next portion of the evening is unpredictable. You're going to meet some things and see some things you've probably never seen before. So, are you ready for it?
Yes.
I've got to introduce my sister. She's 10 years younger than I, and we grew up in the sticks of Arkansas. In 1973, she married this young fellow that's sitting beside her. Paul and Mary Delafato. They now live in Naples, Florida. The only reason she is going to be the featured speaker, and I don't like that word speaker because she's a more performer than a speaker. Anyway, she was supposed to be in Ukraine this week, dealing with the trauma there, but that had to get canceled, so she had a week here, and we put her right here in the middle of it. And it's a pleasure to introduce to you my sister Mary Balaclava, that she's being used greatly by the Lord all over the United States and in many different countries in the work that she's doing. And we're running short, so I won't spend a whole lot of time introducing her. But would you welcome my sister Paul, Mary and Paul Belafonte. And Paul, would you like to say a greeting before Mary comes?
It's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and I'd like everybody to stand. A body standing knows something different than a body seated. Now, we'll prove that to you a little later, but right now, research has proven that we all need 9 hugs a day to be healthy. And some of you are very unhealthy. So I want you to quickly get at least 9 hugs from the people around you. Start hugging.
You got 5 over here, big guy. Come on. You got 5 already? 6. No, you're 5. Okay. That's a good number. 5. I like that. Okay. You live in Florida? That is 7.
I lost.
8.
I lost.
Oh, you lost 5.
Right, so you only got 1 more to be healthy. Do you want to hug? Do you want to hug? You coming from the bus already?
Everybody needs hugs.
Okay, everybody find your seat. Now, what you have just done is you have flooded your brain with positive brain chemistry called endorphins. And it makes you feel happier, it makes you feel connected, and it makes you feel content. So I want to challenge you. You got to get 9 hugs a day. And to get it, you have to give them. church one Sunday after the christening, I knew I was going to have trouble with all these preachers in here. Now it's my turn. Y'all sit down, be quiet. One Sunday after the christening of his baby brother in church, Jason sobbed all the way home in the back seat of the car. His father said, "Son, what's wrong?" Finally, the little boy replied, "That preacher said he wanted us brought up in a Christian home, and I really wanted to stay with you guys." A lot of times what we call a Christian home is not a Christian home. I work all over the country with a lot of pastors. I'm seeing brokenness like you could never imagine. Pastors have come through the pandemic. They are often depressed, discouraged, worried, anxious, wondering about the future. And there's nothing worse than being locked up in a house with someone that you really don't like. You may be married to them, and you may love them, but sometimes we don't like them. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about down to earth, how do you get healing? How do you change relationships? Our relationships are the only thing that we take out of this world with us. People will not remember you, but they will remember how you made them feel. And we are living in a world where people are socially, emotionally deprived. People are hungry to be touched and to be known. There are three things that every human being needs. Can you see me? And when I say that, it's not about looking at our bodies. It's not about the size. It's not about the shape. It's not about the age. It's not about the youth. How smart. People want to be seen. Can you see my heart?
Oh, yeah.
I make it a practice. I travel. I'm on a plane almost every week. Recently, I was sitting in an airport and I watched a little lady that was cleaning up the airport, taking out trash, and nobody was looking at her. And she didn't look at anybody. And I thought, I'm going to sit here and give her my full attention. And all of a sudden, she felt me looking at her. And she looked up, and I smiled. I may have been the only person that saw her that day, but for a moment, I saw her. And I said to her, "Good job." That's all any of us want. Good job. I know that sometimes when I leave my church on Sunday, I'll pat my pastor on the back and say, "That was an awesome job." But sometimes I make a phone call or send him a text and say, "Pastor, that was incredible. And I know you worked hard on that and that hit home." That's different. It's going the extra mile. And we're also used to living in isolation and saying the right things, acting like Christians. And there's something missing. The other thing that we all desire is, can you hear me? Pastors, I'd hate to tell you what percentage of your sermons we don't hear. We watch your lips move. I take good notes. That's how I make myself listen. I take notes. but we don't hear people. And it's not what they're saying, sometimes it's what they're not saying. I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for 50 years. I'm a trauma specialist. And a lot of times when people are talking to me about a family member, and all they say is, my mom, I got this issue with my mom. Sometimes I listen for who are they not talking about. Because when they omit dad, always, and I'll say, you never talk about your dad. Oh, well, we haven't talked in years. So we need to listen in a whole different way to people's hearts. Because that's really what Justin's talking about here, is healing people on a cellular level. The brain knows certain things. The body knows something totally different. We now have techniques, one of which I use is called brain spotting, that taps into what the body knows, not what the mind knows. Trauma lives in the body on a cellular level. I think it's fascinating that Justin was telling me that he has friends over in Rwanda praying for tonight. In 1998, I was in Rwanda. We had America praying for all of us that were over there dealing with genocide survivors. And I remember one of the first things I did with one of the groups, because when genocide was happening, people wanted to run. That's that fight, flee response. But they couldn't. And that was 4 or 5 years after genocide. I remember saying to the entire audience, I want you to do now what you wanted to do and couldn't. And they started running in place. I had to stop them. 10 minutes later, they were still running. The body was holding on to that need. And what do you think that did to their bodies? Holding all of that inside for those 6, 7 years. Some of you are holding things in your body that have been there since you were a child. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, abandonment, emotional abuse. In fact, we're going to go through some of it and talk a little bit about how you heal some of these things, but we cannot heal what we're unwilling to acknowledge. And a lot of times when we come into the Christian church, and one of the pastors mentioned this to me tonight, they go to church expecting God to heal all the wounds, and many times we cover them up because we don't want anybody to know about the wounds, because we have so much shame around it. And God doesn't heal it. So we find different techniques to help us hold on to the trauma and pretend like everything's okay. And one of those techniques is isolation. Pastors are the most isolated, and I know that I have more than pastors here. I have church workers and people that are ministering in the church. But sometimes when you're in ministry, whatever you're calling that, you feel like that isolates you, that you can't let people know you hurt. Guess what? If you don't heal the wounds in your life, you will bleed on people who did not cut you. I'm going to say that again. If you don't heal the wounds in your life, they will be so evident that you will bleed on the people who had nothing to do with those wounds. And they will wonder, why did you say or do what you just did? Because you haven't healed your trauma. All trauma can be healed. We now know this. It can be healed. If you work on it, address it. But we go back again to the three things that we all need. Can you see me? Can you hear me? And often the people who need to be telling their stories are not telling me. They feel like I can't share this because if I share this, it will hurt my family, it will bring shame. We need to share some of these stories. In fact, we now know that if parents can share as much of their story as they have available to them with their children, it makes their children healthier. Because sometimes the parents are acting like we didn't have any pain in our lives. And when you share your pain and you share how you've dealt with it, how you've overcome it, how it has made you stronger, the resiliency of that sifts down into the next generation. And people say, well, you know, my mom and dad had it tough too. So it's okay to have pain. So I have a question for you. The other issue was, can you hear me, see me, and can you approve of me? Now I want to give you a secret. The people who need approval are the ones that act out the most, so you cannot approve of them. You're trying so hard to love them, and they're doing everything they can to upset you. And sometimes that's about their wounds that haven't been healed. But it's almost like if you've ever seen a little kid throw a temper tantrum and you watch a parent just go gather them up in your arms and just hold them and let them struggle. Well, that's kind of what we have to do with those people. Hold them and hug them anyway. Tell them you love them anyway. You'll say, well, they don't respond, they're not listening. Oh, they're listening. And more than anything, they are watching. I'm standing here tonight. I've never had a chance to share this because of my brother and my sister-in-law. I was angry at God, running from God, hated church. Oh God, I hated church. And I hated God, I thought. I was born and raised in Arkansas, and the flavor of God in Arkansas was not appetizing to me. I kept saying to the saints, well, what can I do? Can you tell me what I can do, not what I can't do? Because I said, God has put such passion and fun in me. That's got to be from God, because I didn't put it there. And everything I love to do, y'all say I can't do it. And I'll throw one more thing in. I had a little godly saint come to me. Now, I wasn't a Christian. In fact, I was in such rebellion, I'd sat in the back of the church with a pea shooter and hit the saints in the back of the head. One of my favorite things. And the pastor would say, Mary, why don't you wait outside? The church is over. Thank God. I got out of church. And when I came to Maine, I thought it was for a summer vacation. I was headed to pharmacy school, just graduated from college. And I began to watch my brother, Wilson and Nita. This was the years of miniskirts. I had the shortest miniskirts you could buy. I put as much junk jewelry on me as I could hang on me. I had makeup dripping off my face. And I played cards. And I'd say to Wilson, you want to play some cards? Sure, sis, let's play some cards. And I'd get all dressed up and say, Wilson, I'm going down to so-and-so to the bar to meet a friend. Okay, be safe, sis. I kept waiting for the judgment. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. Don't judge what you see on the outside. My heart longed to connect with a God who loved me, that I could connect with, that wasn't rule-bound. And they loved me, they did not judge me, and that summer at Long Lake Bible Camp, I don't even know who was preaching, but my brother knelt with me and led me to the Lord.
Praise God.
Because I was lost. It was nothing they said. And I repeat that again. It is not what you say. But what's it like watching you? Is there enough evidence to convince you or to convict you that you're serving the Lord? If somebody's really watching? Even when you're alone, what are you doing in private? Pastors are struggling with porn at an epidemic rate. They are trying to find what's missing in their relationship through the electronic, where the enemy is controlling what they see. And they believe that's normal. I said to a group of pastors, just about a month ago, I was working with a group out in California, and they started talking about their struggles. And I said to them, I'm going to get real graphic. I think we have one child in here, but I said, you know what? Watching porn where there is a 2-hour foreplay and intercourse lasts an hour, it's not normal. And you bring that into your bedroom, and you wonder why there's problems? And it's got the church. The church has 50% divorce rate, the same as the world. Man, something's wrong with that picture. So, what's it like living on the other side of you? If I could have a private conversation with your spouse, what would they tell me in secret? What would they say? Because that's what I hear a lot. This is what I need to share with you, Manny. This is what I'm struggling with. I'm trying to serve the Lord and hang on to these things. And the Lord says, you got to let go. You've got to let go of feeling that you have all the answers. The more I study, the fewer answers I have. But I know who has them. So when we look at trauma, and we look at what it does, I want to share an interesting study. This will help a lot of us understand some of our history. There is something called the ACEs study, ACE''S. It is adverse childhood experiences. This is the categories. There is abuse, physical, emotional, and sexual. So as I call this out, I want each one of you to kind of think and count up how many have affected you. Just in your head. Abuse, physical, emotional, sexual. Neglect, physical and emotional neglect. Household challenges, divorce or separation. If you grew up with someone who was mentally ill, if you grew up where one of your parents was incarcerated, or one of the family members was incarcerated, if there was any kind of substance use, if there was any kind of domestic violence. Every one of those counts 1 point. 2/3 of all of us have experienced at least one. Most people have experienced 4. When you experience these things, what you will start to see happening, the childhood trauma that you experience, it brings on the stress in the body, and it starts to become part of you, and you believe that you're broken because these things happen to you. You are not broken. You just need to address it. And you need to give the body a chance to rest because it holds on to the trauma. The part of the brain, which is the back of the brain that holds trauma, it knows no time. So that's when you get triggered, and I'm going to show you what triggered looks like. We're going to have a demonstration here. The body goes on hypervigilance. So I'm going to need a couple of people to help me. I need somebody to be what I call an alligator brain. This is the part of the brain that we are born with. Anybody want to be this part of the brain? Right there. Okay. I need somebody else to be the emotional brain. And if you could hand me this cup here. Now, watch all the men want this part. This is yours. The last one is the professor brain, the smart brain. Look at the guys jumping up for this one. Come on, Natima. Come on. Natima, get up here. So, Natima, you're going to stand back here.
I'm Jesus?
No, you're not Jesus. You are Professor Brain. You are the thinking brain. Thinking brain, feeling brain, the brain that we're born with. This is the part that breathes, blinks the eyes, keeps the heart beating. We really don't have a whole lot to do with this. It just comes online. It's the first online. It's the last off the line. Because this is the part that breathes. If you notice, you've been with someone that's left this earth. When we come in to the earth, they hit us on the bottom to get us to breathe, right? The last thing that happens when you leave, the organs shut down, and then there's what? One last breath. This is the last part that goes. Here. Okay, keep the mic here. Okay. So you're the part of the brain, and we call this the reptilian brain, and you're always scanning. So I just want you to look to the right and to the left constantly, because this is the part of the brain that keeps us safe. You know when you are out walking at night and you hear something behind you, this part of the brain is alert. It's watching. Am I okay? Am I going to be safe? This part of the brain, when it gets triggered, and we'll tell you what triggers it, I want you to make noise as loud as you can. There you go. Okay. Now, when this happens at home, what you may be getting is a lot of this. Yeah. And you might be getting your husband or your wife saying, you never do anything right, you're always late, you do this, you do that. It's loud. Yeah, so keep making it as loud as you can. Okay. So, now, I need 2 more people to come help me. All you got to do is help hold up. Come on up. Okay, you get on one side, and you come over here on this side. Okay. Now, you hold this. Now, normally, there is a trap door that is open between the emotional brain and the thinking brain. Now, be quiet right now. Nothing. You're not being triggered right now. Now, if her husband comes home late for dinner and she's made a nice dinner, there you go. So what happens, would you stand up and would you be a bear? Just stand up right here. Okay, now, so a bear walks in the room, right there, stop right there. When a bear walks in the room, this, go off. Oh my God, it's a bear. Do I need to run? What do I need to do? Now, what happens when a bear comes in the room? This goes up. The trap door that opens the emotions and the brain is offline. Okay? So anytime there's stress in the family, this is what happens. When husband and wife are fighting, okay, you can't make logic at that point. And if you think you're going to be logical and tell somebody what to do, it doesn't work. The brain is offline. It's in stress. So these two are just having a heyday. You're searching and you're just making noise. So, now, why do you think this part of the brain went off? At that point, we do not need the brain to say, is this a brown bear or a black bear? Let's see, now which one do I need to lay down and play like I'm dead, and which one do I need to run from? It's not time to analyze. That's why this part of the brain goes off. So what you do is just take care. Now let me ask you this. What happens if the bear comes home every night? The bear, meaning it could be a drunk dad, an angry mom, or a sibling that's throwing a fit. Who knows what is creating the chaos? But when there's constant stress in the home, and this is offline, the stress just keeps going and going. So when I was sharing about Rwanda earlier, those people were holding the stress in their bodies all those years. We too hold stress in our bodies. From what happened, what didn't happen, what should have happened. And some of you, because we don't want to look at forgiveness and letting go of the past, we keep this alive right here. And if there's no bear, so you can be seated, and everybody calms down, it takes 20 minutes for this door to open. And you step right there, and you're going to start communicating with her again. So now there's harmony. So now most of us don't just stop the stress. You know how sometimes when you think the fight's over, and then somebody from the other room says, blah, 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 guess what? It starts again. 20 minutes with no arousal, no stress, no back talk, no, I won, I'm right, I told you I'm right. Yeah, so this is a little bit about the brain. It's an oversimplified diagram of the brain, but it helps you see that when you don't deal with what's here, and this part of your brain says, I gotta fight, I gotta flee, something's happening, I gotta get out of here, because they believe this is crisis. And they will act that way because that's what they believe. Because the trauma in their brain is saying, it's happening all over. It happened when you were 5, but all of a sudden you feel 5 again, and you're not 25, or you're 55, but you feel 5. So this is what happens. So thank you guys. All of you, give them a hand. Now, this is the interesting part of the ACEs. They have done research for 20 years, the CDC and Kaiser Permanente. They have found that people that have high ACEs have heart disease, strokes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, depression, asthma, because they are holding on to that kind of stress in their body. And I love this quote. It says, if we don't grieve the losses and the pain in our lives, our organs will. So that's what's happening here. The organs are doing the grieving, and they're breaking down. And they're saying, okay, you don't want to do it? The organs will do it for you. So that's why we're dying sooner. Because people are not dealing with the trauma. They're just sitting on it. So if you experience toxic stress in the early years, the effects of that, because of what you experienced in your body, it is producing the stress hormones, and that's when at times we feel crazy and we think something is wrong with me. You're not crazy. What I want to say to you is you need to tell your story, whatever that story is. Because giving people the tools to deal with it takes away the stigma and the shame that I'm broken, I'm mentally ill, I'm not well. No, you're just not healed yet. That's very, very different. There is a website, I'm going to tell you about this, it's called numberstory.org. If any of you want to write that down, numberstory.org. You can go on and take the test to see how many ACEs you have, and it will talk to you about how they affect you. But we all have some. I happen to know mine is 3. And about 13% of the population have 4 or more. And the higher the ACEs, the higher the medical problems. And if you have 7 or more, we call it the trifecta. You have lung problems, heart disease, and cancer. And the higher your ACEs, the more accident prone you are. So the body literally keeps the score. So, good news, it can be changed. If it is hysterical, and a lot of times we look at what people are doing and we say, man, that is just so out of whack with what just happened. It means it's historical. They're replaying the story because they believe it's happening all over again. When you start to look at how do we heal the family is God's smallest battle formation. The enemy is already, he's talked about it, is trying to destroy the very foundation of the family. In fact, now, there are so many definitions of family. What is a family? What is a marriage? What are the roles? What is safety for me? How am I nurtured in my relationship? We have more children being raised by single families, and we have one parent that's trying to be mom and dad. There's an interesting phenomenon with women. Women over the years, as we've gotten more educated, have careers, women now have not given up anything as a housewife or as a mother, but what they've done is kept those roles and taken on the additional roles of what they feel the men have. A career, having a successful career, And what's happening is that women are developing more chronic fatigue, autoimmune disorders because they're burning the candle at both ends. They stay up later, family goes to bed, and they do all the work after everybody's gone to bed because they're being mom and dad. They feel the pressure to be both. So in the family, when you look at the emotional baggage, you start to see what is needed for healing. And one of the first things that you look at, what does a mentally healthy person look like? Well, they can deal with reality, they can change, they have relative freedom from symptoms of tension and anxiety, they can find great satisfaction in giving, they have a capacity to relate to others, and they can direct their hostile energy into a creative resource. And they also have a capacity to love. On the other hand, this is what a dysfunctional family looks like. Control. Controlled by fear. We got to do this or we won't be okay. Driven by perfectionism. Tending to blame others. Overlooking the negative consequences. Unreliability. They feel incomplete and they don't talk. So which side do you show up on? And when you start to look at the different areas that we need to deal with, one of those is rejection. This is where the attitude and actions of others signal to us somehow that we're not as worthy, we're not as good as, that we are less than. And it often leads to people not stepping up to the opportunities that God's opened for them. They rarely get totally involved in the church because they don't feel like they're adequate, they're not enough, they need to know more. And the will to change is destroyed. And to me, that is the bottom layer of healing. Are you willing to change? And that's what Jesus in John 5, when he said to the man that only had an identity, the lame man, 38 years, don't even have a name. And all of us know people that their name is, oh, I'm the injured one. I'm the one that's unsuccessful. I'm the black sheep of the family. Or I'm the one that's not as successful as my siblings. You will hear people talk about their rejection and how they introduce themselves sometimes. So we become prisoners of our own negative emotions, which is what Jesus confronted him. He said, will you be made whole? The power of our will is the one area that we're most like God. Because we can create new pathways in our brains by choosing to do something different. And no one can lay a pathway in your brain, not even God if you won't let him. As a man thinketh, so is he. Depression. Feelings of despondency, dejection, and sometimes a lot of repressed anger. A lot of depression for some people is anger turned inward. Not everybody is depressed, meaning it's anger. There are people that are physiologically depressed because their brain chemistry does not produce what is needed. I think one of the saddest things of the church, and I hear this a lot, because I see a lot of Christians in my practice, and they'll say, well, oh, I can't take an antidepressant. Why not? Well, God just got to heal that. And I'll say, so I think you're diabetic and you take insulin? Well, yeah. So it's okay to take insulin because your pancreas don't produce insulin, but you can't take an antidepressant because God, who says that God has to heal the neck up? Well, a lot of people preach that.
That's right.
So we have people that commit suicide because they won't take an antidepressant because they feel like they're sinning. I believe God created medicines. He gave man the ability. And medicines are part of the healing. In fact, there are 5 levels of healing, and pharmacological is one of them. And for people like me, I'm a cancer survivor. I am so grateful for medicine. I'm free of cancer, but I'm grateful for medicine. And it is not running any race with God. God says it's okay with me. I can heal you whatever way I want to heal. So sometimes people need to be evaluated for depression, especially if it's generational. You look back over your family and you see your parents struggle, or your siblings, or your aunts and uncles, and you see the generational curse that gets passed down. And we can break that, but we also have to work on healing it. Depression becomes a blanket that literally covers the soul. And some are so deep in depression that they take their lives. They can't come out of it. So, the next one is shame. Shame says, I am a mistake. Not what happened to me. I am a mistake. And as a child of the Lord, God created me. I'm not a mistake. People come to me all the time and say, you know, my parents didn't want me. I said, well, you know what? God created you. He picked one ova out of 200,000. That's how many eggs a woman carries in her body. Now, I don't know what this means, but it always puzzles me. God did not trust you men to carry sperm in your body your whole lifetime. You have to keep producing it. I don't know what that means. But one little sperm out of millions got together with one little ova, and that created us. God orchestrated that. It doesn't matter if mom and dad were so broken that they didn't know how to be parents, or they didn't know how to give you the love you needed. But God says, I knew you before you were ever formed in your mother's womb. And God says, you matter. I see you. Guilt tells us that we've made a mistake. And there are 2 kinds of guilt. If it's true guilt, we can confess it and it'll go away. But I think you've all known people who have what we call false guilt. No matter how many times they confess it, it stays right there. That's not true guilt. That is an over-complicated conscience that you believe you have to be perfect. And that when you've had guilt, that it will not go away. Anger is another issue that we're dealing with. Sometimes it's rage. Rage is different than anger. Rage is a behavior or an action designed to numb your feelings. I believe that what we are seeing unleashed in our world right now is an angry generation. They have sat on feelings so long that what is coming out is these young kids, adolescents that go into schools, it's rage. It's not anger, it's rage. And they don't know where to put it. Anger is just a feeling. Anger is neither good or bad. It's what you do with it. I tell people, I got connected to God through my anger. And God says he's angry every day at the wicked. So anger at the evil is not a bad emotion. I stay angry at what happens to people, and it motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. So it's not a bad feeling. What you have to do to work with your anger, accept it, become aware of it, learn to control it, and learn to direct it. People that are angry can accomplish a lot. Sometimes we just get tired of the way the world is, so our anger will motivate us to change things. Proverbs 29:11, it says, a fool gives vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. Maturity is measured by our ability to accept and control our emotions. So learning to deal with your anger, and also realizing that it's part of your grief process. A lot of people are going through grief and they don't even realize they're grieving. We're grieving our world that is changing right in front of us. Our world will never go back to the way it was. Just in case anybody's expecting it to go back, it's going to be calmer, it's going to be better. It's not. And we have to accept that reality and say, God, equip me to deal with what's coming. And give me the ability to heal what's broken in me so I can stand in the gap for others and not let my wounds let me bleed on other people. So, there's so many things that I want to say, but I'm going to stop here and talk just a moment about passion. You as a pastor, the way you have to live, you create abnormal life circumstances. Let me think about this a little bit. Your abnormal life circumstances create high levels of stress. You have chosen a job that guarantees stress. I meet therapists all the time and they'll say, oh, I'm just so burned out, I'm ready to get out of this field. And I said, well, you just go right on down to Wally World and just get a job. They'll give you that little cart and you can stand there and hand carts to people when they come into Wally World. And I said, you'd last 5 minutes. You came to this field because you were drawn to the healing, you were drawn to the passion that has to be involved in the healing process. You are doing what you're doing because God has called you, but you also need to have a passion for it. And if you've lost your passion, you need to ask God to really do a new thing in your life. Because it's our passion that's going to touch people. Because they've heard it all. But if they see something different in you, if they see a fire burning in you, they're going to want to come warm themselves at that fire. But if they hear the same old, same old, same old, they're going to keep walking. And it's unaddressed stress that creates loneliness, anxiety, depression, addiction, strained relationships. And pastors say, well, I'm not addicted. I would be willing to bet that most of you pastors work anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 12 hours a day. That is called a work addiction, just in case you were wondering. And research proves that if your children are brought up in a home where dad was a workaholic and never there, it's not any different than dad being an alcoholic. Because you weren't there. They want a parent that they can see, that sees them. I read a study not long ago, and I wish I had written it down, but it says the average dad with little kids spends about 22 seconds a day engaged with their children. 22 seconds. No wonder we have a whole generation that's looking for fathers, called father hunger. I need a dad. I need somebody to tell me I'm doing it right. I need somebody to tell me I'm okay. So all of the things that I just read will kill creativity, connection, and relationships. So connection is what got us here. And in some way, the way that you are living your life, you are killing connection. Now think about that, circular. You're living an abnormal life circumstances as a pastor, as a leader. The abnormal life circumstances is creating high levels of stress. The unaddressed stress is creating loneliness, anxiety, depression, addiction, strained relationships, all of which kill your creativity. It kills connection, it kills relationship. So we have people living in what I call psychological divorce. Two people under the same roof that share a roof. They don't share much of their life. So connection's what got us here, and in some way what you're doing is killing it at the same time. Interesting. So, have you got that song on, that you were downloading for me? If not, I can pull my phone up. I have on your tables some pieces of driftwood. And you think, what on earth do we have driftwood here for? Well, I am going to set up a river. I want everybody to take a piece of driftwood. In my type of therapy, which is a psychodrama, which is everything is done in action, because when the body's involved, healing occurs. So I would like everybody to stand. Excuse me.
I think there were more.
Okay. So did everybody have a piece of driftwood? Have you got it? What I know is that I know that y'all carry burdens that only you and the Lord know about. So what I'm going to ask as we play this song is that if each of you will just take a moment prayerfully. I want this to represent a river. I'd like to imagine that this is a river that flows from the heart of God. As you walk by this river, if we're playing this song, I want you to drop that burden in the river and let it go, whatever that is that you're carrying. It could be the burdens of ministry, the burdens of your spouse, your children, the community. Does everybody have a piece of driftwood? We've got plenty. Okay. Do I need to get my phone? for the influence. Thank you for the calling on their lives. And God, I pray, lift the burdens. And Lord, remind them of who you are, that you are sufficient. It's not about them. It's not about what they say. But God, it's about them leaning on you. Remind them, Lord, that you go before us. You provide provision ahead. You walk before us. You give your angels charge over us. You uphold us with your mighty right hand. You live inside of us. And Lord, you are our rear guard. And not only that, but goodness and mercy follow us all the days of our life. God, give them the ability to be grateful, to start praising you, Lord, for what they have, not what they don't have. Praising you, Lord, for what you are going to do. And Lord, not looking back, because we will go in the direction that we're looking. Father, I pray, put a new fire in their souls. And God, burn out any dross, burn out any tiredness, burn out anything, God, that stands in the way of them being the called people that are going to touch broken lives and be the transformers of your Spirit as they pray, as they get on their knees, Lord, and they surrender to you anew and afresh. God, bless this group of people. I pray that you set Portland on fire with the power of the Holy Spirit, and every church is represented here. God, do a new thing. Wake our world up, oh God, as you move in us in this last day. Thank you for this time together. Thank you for each one. And Lord, we just worship you and thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Well, thank you for being here, and we've run over time. But Brother Justin wants to say a few words. But Brother Justin, remember, some of these folks have traveled quite a ways, so don't preach long sermons to them because some are having to go already. Thank you for setting this up and all the things you've done.
Thank you so much. Actually, I think that I don't preach at all except to thank everyone. To thank you for having put aside your activities and to come here to be with us and to hear this message. Two things that I have to say. I have a piece of papers which are being distributed in the room. Please help us to fill them out and leave them to the table. We collect them. This will help us to plan other events like this and to learn from what we have done today. That's one thing. The second thing that I wanted to say, I'm not going to say it. I have a brother of mine. He's going to say it. His name is Didier. You don't know him. I went in school with Didier. We studied in the same college, and I came here alone. I didn't know that he's here. By chance, I found him here. But we had the promises when we were at college that one day we will go somewhere and do what we are doing now. We didn't know that it would happen like this. Didier, please come. I think you have something to share with us.
Thank you, Justin. And I'm not going to take more time after being here for a very long moment, but I hope everyone enjoyed as I enjoyed. From what Mary just shared with us, which actually some of the things that she was talking about me, and I hope each one of us got something out of it. But the reason why I'm standing here is because I feel like you all know to make this happen, an event like this, he needs money for sure. In it, we have to have financial means to make this event happen. And as Justin just said, that they will continue planning to have an event like this. I feel blessed to be here this evening. It's a blessing for me to be here and to get a chance to meet some of the people that I would never thought that I would meet without an event like this. With songs, hearing from Pastor Wilson, his sister, which by chance happened to be here. As you said, that she was supposed to go to Ukraine. Maybe if she went to Ukraine, we would have a chance to have this session here this evening. So, but for all of that to happen is because Oasis has organized such an event. So what I'm thinking, and we didn't talk about it, but I just think that I should share this, that we can be part of this ministry by supporting such event to happen again and again and again, because this is very, very critical ministry that we all need, as we know. I remember the word that Mother Teresa said one time was invited at the United Nations Assembly. They asked her what, and those are the leaders of the world, presidents and the ministers and other leaders asked her, what can be done to bring peace in the world? And the answer was, some of you have heard about it, that the most important thing is to go back in your family and give love to your wife or to your spouse and your children. We know that if we keep our families strong, the country will be stronger and our world will live in peace. And to do that, we need ministries like this one. So I urge every one of us to continue supporting. There are so many ways of supporting. I think they have different ways that you can donate online, or you can write a check, and Justin can share that with us. But this is something that we need to continue to support and see as brothers and sisters to continue fellowship together. So that's what I had to say, and I thank you for hearing me.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. This is not a fundraising, but if you feel that you can support this ministry, you may give your check, your note here, or you can also give on one of those means, or you can go online and give online. I have one other thing to tell you. I wanted to thank someone who is not here. He's Pastor Rukusa. He's not, probably he had some event happen. He was supposed to come. He had a message for us. There is one person who is here who has something to say. Can you please say it quickly as we close, or I give back the floor to Dr. Hikam? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so blessed, happy to be here and to participate in this event and to learn with our couples. So the main reason, the other reason I'm here is just to share what our church, Word of God International Christian Center, organizing a big conference. It's going to be from August 28th to September 4th. So in the name of the church and the pastor, I would like to invite you all. At some point by the end of this event, we're going to give you some invitation, and we will be blessed to have you with us, praise and glorify God together. So, God bless you.
Thank you so much. This Pastor Rukusa, dispatched his tech team to come and help us in this event. That's why we thank him as well. So, Dr. Hikam, I don't have much to say, except to, oh, you have something?
Many of us don't have a pen.
You don't have a pen to write. I know there is a some ends. So before I hand the mic to Dr. Hickam, allow me to thank some special people. I think you know a movie which is called Hidden Figures. There are some people who work behind the scene, who are not seen, who are not even visible, who did not even say anything in this event. Among them, there is Sister Nita. What is Sister Nita? Yeah, here she is. Yes, she's distributing pens.
Filling needs.
Yes, filling needs. God bless you, Sister Nita. Nita has worked day and night to make sure that everything runs smoothly, everyone is communicated. Thank you so much. Also, I want to thank my wife, Sister Fabi, that you saw busy with studies, but she was always there praying and supporting and encouraging. God bless you. And also, I wanted to thank people who are not here. Probably they are following us online. There is a team which is in Rwanda. Since they knew that we are planning this event, they had to fast and pray for this event to go well. So God bless you and continue to do good work. And also, I thank Dr. Hickam. Dr. Hickam is someone who picked this vision so quickly, because the way I was thinking was like here on this bottom, and he raised the vision up. He said, let us invite pastors. And I said, that's a good idea. And I cannot thank him more without thanking Mary. Mary, thank you so much. Mary is the one who said, don't worry, I will come and speak. And if we were not there, probably we would not have done something like this. God bless you so much. And also, thanks to your husband who accepted to accompany you and to be with us tonight. So, you may leave them on the table, we will pick them up. Yes, you are collecting them. And I thank you all for your time. Actually, I think we finished before time, but that's okay. It's good to go home. We have learned that to be absent from home so long is not good. So we are so happy to finish in time. And Dr. Hickam, thank you, and the mic is yours.
Well, I got 13 hugs, so I'm healthy. Hope you got plenty and you can go home healthy. Listen, don't forget, the battle's going to get thicker and harder. And I need you more and more. And the devil doesn't want us to fight an army. He wants to fight us individually. God bless you. Safe journeys home. And we hope that God does something out of all of this. It's been difficult to organize because we're from many different places and trying to put it all together. And there's been some bumps. But you know, there's never a smooth road when you follow the Lord. My final word is this. Don't let your way mess up the way. God bless you.
Amen.
Thank you.